Welcome to the Crawcast. I'm your host George Krawczyk, and these are my predictions for Week 16 of the NFL season. And if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money. Now let's get started. The first game is the Los Angeles Rams, who are 11-3, versus the Seattle Seahawks, who are 11-3, and I think the Rams are going to win. So the Rams versus the Seahawks. This game is very big and very important for both teams because honestly, who wins this game probably has the best shot at getting the number one seed in the NFC, as well as winning the division. This kind of reminds me of like the Vikings and Lions last year, where the final game of the year, it was winner gets the one seed, loser gets the five seed. That's what this game is looking like, where winner will get the one seed, loser will get the five seed. I am picking the Rams because even though Davante Adams is out, and that's huge because he leads the NFL in touchdowns and has been a key guy in the red zone for Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is still just on a roll, playing on fire. The defense has played relatively well. Like, I kind of give him a pass last week against the Lions because the Lions offense is so good. But overall, this Rams team, I think, is probably the best team in the NFC, especially now that the Packers are injured. And then the Seahawks. Defense is really good, but their offense has been struggling as of late. And so I think there's a shot that Sam Darnold could let them down, but this is a very exciting game. Could go either way, and this game means everything for both teams. And it's going to be interesting how this works out for the NFC because I've always said the Rams, I think, are the best team, and the only two teams that have an even competent enough defense to stop the Rams are the Seahawks and Packers. And now the Packers are so injured. I think that kind of takes them out of contention. But I think these are the two top teams in the NFC, and I think the Rams are just a little bit better. The next game is the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 9-5, versus the Washington Commanders, who are 4-10, and I think the Eagles are going to win. So this game, the Eagles should win. Yes, Marcus Mariota has been playing better than Jayden Daniels this season, but the Eagles are just a good team, and the Commanders are terrible. So, I get it. Their season was collapsing, and they stopped it last week with a dominant win against the Raiders. But also, it feels like every team has a dominant win against the Raiders. So I don't really want to give them too much credit because it's the Raiders. But the Eagles are much better team than the Commanders. The Commanders are just a disaster. Their offense is okay under Mariota. Their defense has been a disaster. So the Eagles should win this one. I don't think the Eagles are a Super Bowl team, but they definitely should be able to keep turning their season around and win this game because they already made the playoffs. They basically have the division locked up. Like almost a complete collapse by them and an insane improbability by the Cowboys can lead to the Cowboys winning, but that's basically impossible. So the Eagles basically have the division locked up and should make the playoffs. The next game is the Green Bay Packers, who are 9-4-1, versus the Chicago Bears, who are 10-4, and I think the Packers are going to win. So you have the Packers versus the Bears, and this is a very interesting one because both these teams are very injured, especially the Packers. So the Packers, right tackle Zach Tom, probably not playing. Christian Watson, wide receiver, may or may not play. Micah Parsons is obviously out, torn ACL. Devontae Wyatt out, torn ACL. Tucker Kraft out, torn ACL. Jaden Reed is questionable, but I think he will play. So basically, Green Bay is just completely injured. And then Chicago, two of their top three receivers in Luther Burden and Rome Dunze are also out. So both these teams are kind of injured. I am picking the Packers because even though I think the Bears are a better team at this point on, it just seems like the Packers always beat the Bears. Like the last time the Packers played a game with their starting quarterback playing the entire game and the Bears won was in 2017. So it's been 8 years. So I just find it hard for the Bears to win, but I do think it's likely that the Bears are going to win the division because right now the Lions are way too far behind to win the division, so they're basically out. And then I think the Packers are too injured. Without Micah Parsons and a lot of these key players, I think the Packers will make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be kind of one and done in the wild card. I just really don't see them being a Super Bowl team, and that sucks because I thought they were an elite team and they did go all in, and I thought it was paying off, and they could have won the Super Bowl this year. But now the injuries just caught up to them, and I don't really believe in them that much because it's really been disappointing as the Packers pass rush because you have guys like Rashawn Gary who's only getting one-on-ones because of Micah Parsons, and he struggled to win those. And so I think the Packers are a good team, not a great team. And I think overall the Bears are probably better at this moment, but I'm picking the Bears picking the Packers given the history, and it feels like the Bears just can never beat the Packers. The next game is the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 10-4, versus the Dallas Cowboys, who are 6-7-1, and I think the Chargers are going to win. So you have the Chargers versus the Cowboys. I'd kind of compare the Chargers a bit to the Packers, where like they're just such an injured team where they're limping into the playoffs, and I like they're definitely going to win some games. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs, but I can't see them going that far given how injured their team is. Their offensive line is basically non-existent, and their defense has stepped up quite a bit, and so that's why I'm picking them because the Cowboys' offense is good, but their defense is so bad that even with the Chargers' offensive line and their offense struggling, I think Justin Herbert should be able to pick apart this Dallas Cowboys defense. Heck, J.J. McCarthy did it, and if J.J. McCarthy can do it, Justin Herbert for sure can do it. And the Cowboys, their season is over, so they got nothing to play for really. Because even though I don't think they're technically eliminated from the playoffs, there's like a less than 1% chance, and a lot of crazy things have to happen, so they're basically eliminated. So overall, I think the Chargers are going to win because they're a much better team and they have more to play for. The next game is the Minnesota Vikings, who are 6-8, versus the New York Giants, who are 2-12, and I think the Vikings are going to win. So the Vikings versus the Giants. We don't know if Jackson Dart is playing, but I think Jackson Dart probably will play. And then the Vikings have been looking good in recent weeks. Their defense has been great pretty much all season. It's just that J.J. McCarthy has struggled a lot when he's played and really has not looked good at all. But the past several weeks, he's been improving and playing better, and this Giants defense is not very good and has been struggling quite a bit. So it seems like J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings are finally putting the pieces together to potentially be good next year. So I am picking the Vikings to win. And then the Giants, they kind of want to lose because Jackson Dart, obviously, health is a huge issue because he keeps getting injured, but Jackson Dart does seem like he's their future quarterback. And so if they can get the number one overall pick and trade it for a lot of other picks or players, they could potentially be good in the future. But right now, it seems like the Vikings are on the rise, and I think the Vikings are going to win. The next game is the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 4-10, versus the Miami Dolphins, who are 6-8, and I think the Bengals are going to win. So I don't know if you classify this as an upset because I'm picking the Bengals and they have a worst record, but also I don't think anybody thinks the Dolphins are really that much better than the Bengals. So the Dolphins announced that they are benching Tua, and I see everyone online talking about how, oh, this means they're for sure going to cut him or trade him in the offseason. I'm not entirely sure that's true. The reason why the Dolphins are benching Tua are for two reasons. Number one, to give Quinn Ewers a shot because Quinn Ewers was projected first round pick last year, and then he had a bad year, and then was a 7th round pick. So he does have potentially first round pick talent. So give him a shot the final 3 games if he can play really well and maybe earn himself a shot to be the quarterback of the future. And then the main issue is Tua getting injured because if he gets injured, like tears his ACL or something like that, he has to be on the team. The Dolphins cannot cut him if he gets injured, and no one would want to trade for him if he's injured. So that is why they're benching him, because it gives them the Dolphins the option to either start him next year, bench him next year, cut him, or trade him. And whereas if he gets injured and has a long-term injury, the Dolphins can't do that. So that's why they're benching him. It's not necessarily saying he's for sure not being on the team next year. He's being benched because they don't want to risk injury and kind of wasting his contract. So that's kind of the big news there, where I think people are overreacting to it. Again, it's just to give them more options. So the Bengals, like, it's tough because Quinn Ewers, if he does play well, the Bengals defense is the defense to do it against. The Bengals defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL, so he definitely has a good shot at playing well against them and kind of earning a shot. And I know there'll be a lot of overreactions if he does play well, like, oh, is he actually a future of the franchise? And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think you need to overreact because it's the Bengals. But overall, I think the Bengals are a better team in terms of their offense firepower is so good that I don't trust Quinn Ewers just because I haven't seen anything out of him, and I just think the Bengals are probably a better team, even with their horrible defense. The next game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 7-7, versus the Carolina Panthers, who are 7-7, and I think the Buccaneers are going to win. So you have the Buccaneers versus the Panthers, and this one's a tough one for me because I keep going back and forth because I don't think either of these teams are that great, and neither of these teams deserve a playoff spot. I am picking the Buccaneers, though, because they did start the season really well and have shown high-end play at times, whereas the Panthers, it feels like they never really have shown that high end of play, where there's never been a game where it's like, oh, they're completely dominating and they feel amazing, except for that one game against the Falcons, but that was the defense. And I think there's a lot of lot of like pressure on Todd Bowles to perform because they really should have beat the Falcons last week. They led up a 3rd and 28 and a 4th and 14 against the Falcons. Like there's no excuses there. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Todd Bowles to win the division and make the playoffs to keep his job. I'm not saying he'll get fired this year, but that'll be more evidence to potentially fire him next year if the Buccaneers are terrible. So I think the Buccaneers are a better team than the Panthers, but it's going to be interesting because there's basically 2 games against each other. And those 2 games are going to decide the division and decide who makes the playoffs. And I just think the Buccaneers are more deserving of a playoff spot and probably going to win. The next game is the New York Jets, who are 3-11, versus the New Orleans Saints, who are 4-10. And I think the Saints are going to win. So the Jets versus the Saints, I think these are 2 wildly different, even though they have similar records, they're 2 wildly different teams. Whereas if you look at the Saints, a lot of their games they keep barely losing, and then the Jets just keep getting blown out. So the Jets are just absolutely terrible and are a dumpster fire, and there's nothing really good to say about the Jets. And then at least with the Saints, like Tyler Shuck has been performing well. Not amazing, not saying he's definitely the franchise guy, but he's been playing well. And then Kellen Moore seems to be like a great coach. And so I just think the Saints are a better team, and the Saints should win this one. It could go either way. This game really doesn't matter. Neither of them are fighting for anything, so I do think the Saints are better, and the Saints should win this one. The next game is the Buffalo Bills, who are 10-4, versus the Cleveland Browns, who are 3-11, and I think the Bills are going to win. So you have the Bills versus the Browns. I think the Bills are going to win. Like the only shot that the Browns have is if their defense steps up and plays dominant, and then Shedeur Sanders kind of plays well enough to not blow it. But I just don't see that happening because their defense has struggled recently, and Shedeur Sanders has also really struggled recently. And then Josh Allen, he especially last week has had certain games where he just puts on his Superman cape and becomes unstoppable and becomes like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So I do think the Bills are better, and the Bills should win this one. And they're fighting for the division, even though I think it's going to the Patriots. They are fighting for the division, and they need this one really bad. And then it's going to be interesting if Myles Garrett gets the sack record. I can't remember. He's either 2 or 3 sacks away from getting it. And he needs to get it this week or next week. Like, because it's just going to be weird if he gets it in 17 games. Because it's like, yes, technically you got it, but you got an extra game that no one else had. So it feels a little bit unfair. So I really hope if he does get it, he gets it before the 17 games. Because, again, that just feels like unfair. But overall, the Bills are a better team, and the Bills need to win this one and should win this one. The next game is the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 6-8, versus the Tennessee Titans, who are 2-12. And I think the Chiefs are going to win. So the Chiefs versus the Titans, I still think the Chiefs are going to win even though they don't have Patrick Mahomes. The thing is, the Chiefs' defense is still very, very good and should be able to play well and largely shut down this Titans offense because the Titans really haven't played well. Like, Cam Ward at least has been playing better in recent weeks, and he deserves credit for that because, he really hasn't been playing that well. But overall, I think even with Gardner Minshew, this Chiefs team should still win because of their defense. Their offense has really been letting them down in these weeks. And again, like, nothing matters because none of these teams are in the playoffs. They're not really fighting for anything. And kind of what I said earlier about the Giants, the Titans, if they can lose, they kind of want to lose because they have their franchise guy, hopefully, in Cam Ward. And so they can trade the first overall pick for tons of other picks and make this the game and make a good team because that's what the Bears did. The Bears, they decided to trade away the first overall pick in Bryce Young. They got a bunch of picks, they got a bunch of players, and then the next year, the Panthers were so terrible they were able to get Caleb Williams, and then now they've used those picks and players to build a really good team. So I think that's kind of the strategy if you're the Titans or Giants, if you like have your guy and just trade away the picks to a team that needs it, like the Browns or the Jets or a team like that, or the Raiders. And so, yep, I still think the Chiefs are going to win, even though this could go either way, and I think it'll be a close one. The next game is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 10-4, versus the Denver Broncos, who are 12-2, and I think the Broncos are going to win. So the Jaguars versus the Broncos, this should be an interesting game because both Bo Nix and Trevor Lawrence have been playing really, really well recently after struggling for most of the season. And both these teams seem to be on the rise. I am picking the Broncos because I think Bo Nix has been playing better than Trevor Lawrence overall, as well as the Broncos defense is way better than the Jaguars defense. But both these are playoff teams. Both these are really good teams. And I think the Broncos have the best shot at making the Super Bowl on the AFC side. Like, I don't know, like the NFC, it feels like it's kind of set with the Rams, whereas with the Broncos, You got, or with the AFC, you got the Broncos, you got the Bills, because you never really count out Josh Allen, and there's a couple other teams there. So overall, I think this should be an exciting matchup, and I think the Broncos are just a better team. The next game is the Atlanta Falcons, who are 5-9, versus the Arizona Cardinals, who are 3-11, and I think the Falcons are going to win. So you have the Falcons versus the Cardinals. Again, this game doesn't mean anything. Both these guys are out of the playoffs. They're not going to win. I am picking the Falcons because I'm wondering, Kirk Cousins, is he actually back and playing well now, or is it just against the Buccaneers defense? Because if you look at his 3 games against the Buccaneers defense as a Falcon, he has been absolutely fantastic. But in all the rest of the games, he's been kind of bad. So maybe he comes back down to earth and plays bad again. But also credit to Kyle Pitts, who's been playing really, really well recently. But the Cardinals are kind of a dumpster fire, and they're terrible. They're gonna move on off of Kyler Murray, and so nothing to say here. It'll be interesting if Kirk Cousins can play well. I think the Falcons are a better team, but we'll see. The next game is the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 2-12, versus the Houston Texans, who are 9-5, and I think the Texans are going to win. So you have the Raiders versus the Texans. I think this is going to be a blowout. The Texans should dominate the Raiders. The Raiders have been the most embarrassing team in the NFL this year. I understand there's a couple of teams that have the same record as them, but if you look at the Raiders' losses, they're not close losses. They've been embarrassed, it feels like, almost every single week. And then the Texans. They probably have the best defense in the NFL, and C.J. Stroud has been playing better recently. And this is kind of what I've been saying about the Texans for a while, is they're a lot like the 2015 Broncos, where Peyton Manning was the worst quarterback in the NFL, and the defense was so good that it led them to the Super Bowl, and they won the Super Bowl. So maybe that can happen with the Broncos, where C.J. Stroud has not played well this season. In the past few weeks, he's played really well, but overall, he's played kind of terrible this year. And so if he can continue to play well and play well enough to not blow it, this strong Texans defense can potentially carry them to the playoffs and the Super Bowl. It's going to be tough if they make the Super Bowl, but they should definitely win this one. This should be a blowout. The Raiders are terrible, and this will just build more confidence in the Texans team. The next game is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 8-6, versus the Detroit Lions, who are 8-6, and I think the Steelers are going to win. This is my big upset of the week, is that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to beat the Detroit Lions. It's going to be interesting because I think as a whole, the Steelers team is better, where the Lions, I think they have one of the best offenses in the NFL, and I think their offense is way better than the Steelers' offense, but their defense is so unbelievably terrible that the Steelers' defense kind of blows them out of the water, and when you kind of average it out, great offense, horrible defense, whereas decent offense, decent defense, I think that averages out to the Steelers being better. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers' offense has been on fire the last few weeks, and their defense has been playing decently well too. So I think the Steelers should win this one. The Steelers are a good team, but it could be a close one. And then the Lions, they're trying to make the playoffs, and it's going to be tough for them because here's the thing that kind of needs to happen is that they need the Packers to win the division. Because what the Lions want is to end with the same record as the Bears. So Lions need to basically win out, and they need the Bears to lose out, the Packers to win the division, and then have the better record than or have the same record as the Bears and beat the Bears off of tiebreakers. It's going to be tough. It's really going to be tough for the Lions to make the playoffs, but we will see. And then the Steelers need this one because right now they're one game ahead of the Ravens, and they want to continue that lead to win the division and make the playoffs because they're not making it through the wild card. They're either winning the division, making the playoffs, or they're losing the division and missing it. So this game is very important for both of these teams. Kind of more important for the Lions than it is for the Steelers. But overall, it's interesting. Rodgers returned to Detroit, where he's had many victories. And it's also interesting to say about this is that the Lions might miss the playoffs. And it's crazy to me because the top team in the NFC last year was the Lions, and the top team in the AFC last year was the Chiefs. And now the Chiefs missed the playoffs, and Detroit's probably missing the playoffs. And so I'm wondering, when was the last time that you had the top AFC and NFC team both miss the playoffs after a year? That is crazy to me, but overall, I think the Steelers are going to win, but this should be a close one and a good one. The next game is the New England Patriots, who are 11-3, versus the Baltimore Ravens, who are 7-7, and I think the Patriots are going to win. So you have the Patriots versus the Ravens, and this would be an interesting one because the Patriots have been one of the top teams in the AFC, but they have had a very easy schedule, and the past couple of games, Drake May really hasn't played that well. And then if you look at the Ravens, But the Patriots defense has been playing pretty well overall. And if you look at the Ravens, their offense has been terrible. Lamar Jackson has played terrible this season, but their defense has been really strong in keeping them in games. And I think these are two pretty even teams with offenses that are inconsistent and strong defenses. But overall, I think the Patriots are just a better team than the Ravens, so I am picking the Patriots. But it could go either way. The Patriots don't really need this one, even though they're trying to extend their lead over Buffalo in the division. And then the Ravens really need this one because they're running out of games to catch Pittsburgh, and there's a good shot they're missing the playoffs, and they need to catch Pittsburgh. So we will see, but I think the Patriots are a better team, and the Patriots should win this one. The final game of the week is the San Francisco 49ers, who are 10-4, versus the Indianapolis Colts, who are 8-6, and I think the 49ers are going to win. So last week, the 49ers played really, really well, but their competition wasn't that great. And then the Colts, they played relatively decent. Like, Philip Rivers was just carried by the running back and their defense, and I don't think he can do that this week. I think he actually needs to play well and win games, and I just don't trust Philip Rivers. And so I think the 49ers are a better team, and the 49ers should win this one. So those are my predictions for Week 16 of the NFL season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button like it owes you money, and I'll see you on the next one.